I'm really upset right now about the weight loss drugs because I feel like we are so far off the track. Now, I know for people like who have pre-diabetes, like it definitely is a lifesaver, but we're missing the deeper meaning here. And now you are being told you need to be a certain weight to be lovable and all. I mean, there's so much there.
Oh.
So when I look at what you said through the lens of my work with the patriarch, it's like, yeah, when you show a woman how to lose her own weight and fall in love with her own body, she becomes hard to market to. So with you, like the way you're saying, if you feel your true sensuality just by being turned on by your own senses, now you can't be marketed to. That's incredible. Now, one of the things about sensuality that I think is interesting is I equate sensuality to creativity. Mm-hmm. And when we get tapped into that creative side, I had Martha Beck on this podcast, and she was sharing that why she thinks anxiety is up is because we are all in our left brain, and our whole world has been created by this left brain patriarch, and we aren't in our creative right brain. And she said the brain was never meant to be only one hemisphere used. It was meant for both hemispheres used. And when we come into that wholeness, now the anxiety goes away. I'm thinking that what you just said is that we were never supposed to outsource our sensuality. We were supposed to build it from within. And what you're doing is bringing women back to an energy that was supposed to be there that the patriarch took away.
Yes. Absolutely, Mindy. Thank you for summarizing it so beautifully. When I was doing research for my book, one of the things that I stumbled upon was when Native American women and tribes would celebrate a girl beginning her period by decorating her hair with flowers, lighting a fire, and dancing around the fire and singing as a celebration of her stepping into this era of her life, this time of becoming a woman. And the colonizers would be hiding in the woods and finding these women dancing, and they would come and rape them. And so the movement of a woman's body was enticing. And again, men thought, oh, well, I now feel turned on, so I get to take that thing. So that practice, that art, that rite of passage, that ritual started to be something women feared. So they completely stopped it. Because I was looking for rites of passage when girls started their period, why we don't still have those. And there's a lot of trauma around why that got stopped. And so a lot of my work, and when we talk about sensuality, is movement and flow and getting women out of their seats and dancing and moving in pretty primal ways. And I showcase that and I demonstrate it. And women are terrified of their own bodies. They're terrified of moving and what gets stirred up as they start moving. And what I said to women is like, listen, with all due respect, meditation and yoga are beautiful, but both were created by men for the practices of men. And when you think about masculine versus feminine energy, right? Like that container and that stillness, beautiful. I love both practices, but those alone are not enough for me, Mindy. I need my dance. I need my movement. Women are just like the 28-day moon cycle. Women are created with that constant change and flow. And if we are constantly sedentary, operating just from our cerebral space and not from our womb space, all of our creativity lives down there. And if we're never moving any of that, how do I even know what it is that I want, what I desire? So sometimes when I'm in a session with a woman, I'm like, let's get up out of your seat. I'm going to get up with you. Let's move. Just close your eyes and listen to the sound of my voice. And I just have her start doing some hip circles and moving. You can't believe almost immediately the answer she was looking for comes. The tears start streaming because they're sourcing from a place that they have been cut off from, a place between their hips that they've told, don't go there, don't source there. I mean, even when you think about, this would be another episode, we could do like so many different episodes, but even when you think about how we have prophetized birth in this country.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Which is the most amazing. I've never felt, I have never felt more like a woman than when I delivered my babies. And real quickly, I will tell you that my second child, my son, was born at home. And one of the greatest moments of my life was when he came out naturally and I locked eyes with my daughter, who was in diapers and 2.5 years old. And she looked at me like, your body can do that?
Well,
it was one of the most beautiful feminine moments where an older woman and a younger child, like to be like this. And I always tell people that I feel like what I looked at her and said is, this is feminine power. Don't forget it.
Mindy. Oh, my skin hurts. My skin hurts. The chills. Yes, it's so resonant. Like something ancient inside of me just got activated. It's so powerful. I mean, if people could really pause for just a moment and hear, and again, I've had women say to me when I've talked about this on one of my podcast episodes, well, I feel like you're shaming women who had C-sections or epidurals. I said, no, I'm sharing my story. If me sharing my story or my 10 years of teaching natural childbirth somehow feels like shame to you, you've misunderstood. I'm sharing a different narrative. Just because you and I are sharing different narratives, it doesn't mean that the other one has to be wrong. It just means here's a different way to consider being a woman. Yeah. Here's a different way to access your power. And so I think that when we start patriarchalizing, prophetizing, lay on your back, we're going to numb you up, you don't know how to do this, we're going to make it happen for you, and then all the repercussions. Oh, God forbid
you should feel any pain. Yeah.
Wow. So I think that area of a woman's body in general, we've been so disconnected from it that women are afraid to connect to it, and when they do and they realize, oh my gosh, there was actually never anything to be afraid of. As a matter of fact, so many of the answers of my life live there.
Wow. Do you know, one of my sweet friends is Leanne Rimes, and the singer. She's such a beautiful soul. And do you know that she taught me that the vocal cords and the cervix were same tissue, and they separate at birth? And when she first said that to me, I literally went to YouTube to look up the vocal cords because I had never looked at the vocal cords before. And I was like, oh my God, so what does that mean when a woman's voice is silenced? How does that affect her cervical tissue? And when a woman has been raped, how does that affect her vocal tissue? If these are literally histologically the same tissue, that I can see why you're going in through the door of sensuality, because if we can wake that up, then we can wake the voice up. Yeah. And I can see why the patriarch would want us to silence us sexually, because if you silence us sexually, you silence our our ability to speak for ourselves. I mean, it goes deep.
It is so deep. And if you went on YouTube, you've seen the diagram of it. I show that when I start my masterminds. I show them the visual of that, and it looks like everything else. And so I explain to women, like, those got separated, but the vagus nerve is still connecting them.
Connects them.
Yes. And so often there are women, when they're really afraid to go the other route to begin the sensuality work, I have them begin here. Like, let me hear you. Follow me. We're going to do this together, right? And we get into that. I have them just start making really faint noises, and then we get louder, and then I help them move it more guttural. And as this starts to come more alive and open, naturally everything else does eventually, right? So every woman needs a different way of getting there. The journey is a bit different for every woman depending on what kind of trauma she's dealing with. But I have a really beautiful, insanely powerful rage release practice. That rage release practice includes a lot of vocals, right? And a lot of movement that is very primal and very feminine and very sensual. So it's helping, because rage is just unalchemized passion, right? You have rage, and God forbid we don't want women to be angry. You have to be pleasing and pretty.
No.
Don't be upset.
The culture would not like that. We're called a bitch if we are, just FYI.
Oh yeah. But I teach them how to access their rage, because also accessing your rage and being able to usher yourself through that is the flip side of sensuality. It's the other side of passion. So there's just so much beautiful work to be experienced.
You know what I want to say on that is the vagus nerve is the seat of the parasympathetic nervous system. And I look at that as I was hearing you speak, I was thinking, well, isn't that interesting? So when women aren't resting and they're not accessing their parasympathetic nervous system, they're also not activating their voice. They're not activating their cervical, their womb, let's just call it. So, and then in the opposite is probably true, where when you start to activate the cervical tissue through the work you're doing, and you activate your voice, you actually now are activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And when I think about like things like infertility, I mean, you have the background in birth, like infertility, what if that's just your inability to fully express yourself? And so it keeps you stuck in this sympathetic dominant state that is not leaning into the vagus nerve, that's not leaning into these tissues that are connected. Like we look at the body as parts, and we are so one whole being that needs to be addressed from so many areas. So that was just something I thought, I was like, well, that's interesting, because one of the things I'm trying to get women to do is courageously rest. It's time for us to honor rest. And if you honor rest, what I'm also hearing is you're honoring your vocal cords and you're honoring your creative womb energy.
And you're telling your body it's safe, right? It's safe to rest.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful thing.